welcome to another episode of Barbie's Kitchen. Today we're gonna make peanut butter Oreo balls. If you've made Oreo balls before, it's basically the same thing. Usually the way that I make these is I get the peanut butter Oreos, but because of all the craziness with the coronavirus, the store that I went to did not have peanut butter Oreos. So I'm just gonna double the amount of peanut butter that I normally put in with my mixture. Alrighty, here we go.
I need one package of Oreos, one thing of whipped cream cheese, about a half a cup of peanut butter, some white chocolate, some regular chocolate, just depending on whether or not you want white chocolate or regular chocolate. My husband prefers the regular chocolate, so mostly what I make. Your cookie dough scooper, a rolling pin, a gallon-sized bag, and a large mixing bowl.
Okay, to start off, I take a gallon-sized bag and I put about a row and a half of the cookies in here because I don't want to overload it and they not crumble as good as they should. If you have a food processor, it'd probably be much easier to do that. I'm sure you could use a blender too, but I'm just going to use a rolling pin. And you're just going to smash your cookies as best as you can. You can also use a mallet if you have one. This is just the easiest way for me to do it because it's just easier to roll it over. You want to get them pretty fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and then I will show you what it looks like when they're done. So we're good and crushed now. It's pretty flat. I did get a couple of holes in it, which is fine. You can double bag it if you want to. I'm not going to because it's not a big deal. And then what we'll do, open up your bag, pour it in. Because this is just the first round, I still have cookies in my bag. I'm not gonna scoop out all the rest of the icing yet. Whenever I get done with the rest of the package of cookies, then I will scoop as much as of that icing out as I can. All right, so I've broken up the rest of my cookies, as you can see. And now I'm gonna add them to the rest of my cookies. And I did end up using a mallet to crumble these cookies. You just gotta do what's easiest for you, because it is hard. I've gone without having a mallet or a rolling pin and used like a can of green beans, or I've used like a non-stick spray can. I've used a masher. I mean, if you have a food processor or a blender, then you can use that, like I said before. And that probably is a pretty easy way to do it. Alright, I'm just gonna scrape this off of the bag as best as I can. If you don't get all of it, it's not a big deal because you do have a lot of that icing down in there. It just sticks to the bag when you're smashing it because it's sticky. Right, now we're gonna add in our cream cheese. If you use a brick of cream cheese, you're gonna need to soften it. But I use the whipped because it's so much easier. You don't have to worry about softening it. And it's creamier. I love it. This is what I use on my bagels. Or if I'm eating just like Ritz crackers and cream cheese, I'll eat it with this too. So you can stir it with a spatula, or you can get down and dirty, take your rings off, and do it with your hands. Most of the time I do it with my hands because it's easier and you know that you're getting all of it mixed together really good. Okay, so I've got it mixed all together and I forgot my peanut butter. So now I'm gonna add in the peanut butter and you're just gonna do the same thing. You're gonna stir it in just like you did with your cream cheese. You want it to spread all over. If you wanna add more peanut butter than this, go for it. If you like a lot of peanut butter, go for it. This is just, I didn't want it to be overwhelming with peanut butter, so I only add this much. When I make it with the peanut butter Oreos, I only do 1/4 of a cup, and that's just because there's already peanut butter in the Oreos, and I don't want it to be overwhelming. You want to taste that Oreo too, you don't want just peanut butter. I'm gonna mix that in really, really, really good. And it tastes a lot like Reese Cups. So good. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little scooper here and we're gonna scoop out our balls. I put parchment paper down on this because it makes it easier to take them off after you freeze them and to actually make your Oreo balls. I use this big baking sheet because this usually makes a lot, and if I put them on a smaller baking sheet, I have to use 2 of the sheets instead of just 1. So that's why I've got them on this big sheet. This will usually make quite a few Oreo balls. And you can make them as big and or as small as you want. It's completely up to you. You don't have to line your baking sheet with parchment paper. You can use aluminum foil, you can use whatever you want. Because they're not going in the oven. They're just gonna go in the freezer. So, scoop all your balls out. No pun intended. And after you get done, you'll freeze them for an hour or just enough to where they're good and hard. That way, when you go to cover them with chocolate, they're not gonna look funky. When I get done with this, I'm gonna form the balls a little bit better to make them nice and pretty. If you're one that wants to make Oreo balls to sell, that's probably something that you'll do. Just because you want them to be cute and pretty and neat and not looking like this, looking atrocious. Which they might look atrocious, but they taste amazing. So, alright, so I'm going to show you what they look like when I get finished.
So this is what we've got. Pretty good amount. And I'm going to stick them in my deep freezer. I'm not going to cover them, nothing like that. Just put them in there for an hour or until they're good and hard. And then we'll start covering them with chocolate. Yum.
Alright, so our Oreo balls are good and frozen. Now I'm going to melt our chocolate and cover. I usually do about half, but since my husband doesn't really want a lot of white chocolate, I'm only going to do a couple of the white chocolate. So I'll probably only do these white chocolate and the rest of them regular chocolate. So I'm gonna melt this down, start coating, and I'm gonna show you how I coat them because I used to do it a different way and I would run out of chocolate really fast. So I'm gonna show you a good way to do this. Okay, so now I'm just gonna show you how I coat these Oreo balls. And sorry for the child yelling in the background, that is my son. Alright, so you're just gonna take a fork and a spoon, and you're just gonna take 2 fingers and tap your hand just to get that excess chocolate off. And we're gonna put it back on our paper and scoop it right off with the spoon. Alright, and just keep doing this until you're either out of chocolate or out of Oreo balls. And I'm going to show you what my finished product looks like. Just a little extra for you. All this extra chocolate that you have. Make some hot chocolate. I heated up a cup of milk in the microwave for about 2.5 minutes. I'm gonna get just a little more. stir it up. And it'll make a nice cup of hot chocolate.
So the last thing that I did was I took about 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and a little bit of my white chocolate, and I melted it down, and then I just sprinkled it over the top. Just drizzled it real nice. And these are so good. I'm gonna put them back in the fridge for, I don't know, about 10 minutes, and then they should harden enough that I can put them in just a regular container and we can just sit and eat them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.